He survived the TV show that tore apart careers, marriages, and lives. 94, Hal Linden is finally breaking his silence about the dark side of Barney Miller. The grueling 20-hour filming days, the explosive on-set fights, the scripts that arrived last minute, and the stunning reason Hal turned down a role that could have made him far wealthier than his Barney Miller earnings combined. After 4 decades of keeping quiet, TV's beloved police captain is ready to reveal the truth. Hal Linden was born Harold Lipschitz on March 20, 1931, in the Bronx, New York. The youngest child in a Jewish immigrant family, Hal's early life was shaped by his father, Charles, who had immigrated from Lithuania in 1910. Charles opened a small printing shop, a business that supported their family through the tough times. Growing up during the Great Depression, Hal lived in a bustling, working-class neighborhood full of diverse cultures and people, a place where survival often meant being adaptable. Young age, Hal developed a deep love for music. His passion only grew as he aged. He attended the High School of Music and Art in Manhattan, a prestigious institution where talented young artists honed their craft. It was there that Hal discovered the clarinet, quickly mastering it and even playing with symphony orchestras while still a teenager. But Hal didn't stop there. He soon picked up the saxophone and built a reputation for his musical prowess. After high school, he enrolled at Queens College to study music but soon shifted to City College of New York to study business, believing that understanding the entertainment industry could be the key to his success. To make ends meet and gain more stage experience, Hal played in dance bands across the city. Everything changed one day in the early 1950s. During a bus ride from Philadelphia to New York, Hal saw a sign on a water tower in New Jersey that read, Lyndon. He had been toying with the idea of changing his name, as Harold Lipschitz didn't seem to fit the glitzy world of show business. That moment on the bus gave him his answer. Lyndon had a smooth, clean ring to it, kept Hal as a shortened version of his first name. What's fascinating is that both his original name and his new one, Lipschitz and Lyndon, have roots in words that mean lime tree in different languages, a subtle link to his origins that Hal quietly embraced. This pivotal change came in 1952 when Hal was drafted into the US Army and sent to Fort Beaver, Virginia. Even in uniform, he found a way to stay close to his true passion, playing in the Army band. But the real turning point happened thanks to a fellow soldier who suggested they check out a show in nearby Washington, D.C. The production, Guys and Dolls. As Hal sat in the audience, something inside him clicked. The stage, the energy, the storytelling, it all spoke to him in a way he had never felt before. It was the moment he realized he was meant to be on that stage. By the time the show ended, Hal knew one thing for sure. He was destined to be an actor. For the next decade, Hal Linden remained Broadway's best-kept secret. From 1956 to 1966, he worked tirelessly behind the curtain, always ready to step in but never quite the star. He became the go-to understudy, filling in for famous Hollywood names, learning dozens of lead roles, and rushing between theaters like someone carrying a secret. Some days, he'd juggle 3 shows at once, scripts tucked under his arm, jokes ready to go, and a constant hum of excitement in the air. At home, his family would chuckle, Dad's bringing home the understudy bacon again. They lived in a modest apartment on the Upper West Side, where the fridge wasn't always stocked, but the dream never faltered. Then, everything changed in 1958. Sidney Chaplin abruptly quit the musical Bells Are Ringing after a fight with his co-star, Judy Holliday. Hal had been quietly preparing behind the scenes, waiting for his chance. And now, with only a day to prepare, it was his turn to step into the spotlight. He took the stage and gave the performance of his life. The next morning, his face appeared in the New York Times. Finally, the city knew his name. That moment set off a chain reaction, leading to more work, including a pivotal role in Anything Goes in 1962, where he performed alongside a young Barbara Streisand, who was just beginning her rise to stardom. Broadway, as it often does, proved fickle. Even after his success, roles began to dwindle. By the mid-1960s, the work dried up, and Hal took whatever he could get. He entered the bizarre world of industrial musicals, massive, flashy productions created solely for corporate events. No critics, no fame, no Broadway lights. In one show called Diesel Dazzle, he even played a carburetor. Yes, you read that right. He also voiced characters for foreign films and sang jingles for commercials. If you ever hummed "I'm good for Campbell's soup," there's a chance that was Hal Linden's voice you heard. But then, in 1971, everything shifted. After years of struggling, Linden was cast as Mayor Rothschild in a new musical about the famous banking family. The show was plagued with problems. Directors quit, scripts were rewritten, and the production seemed doomed. Yet, Linden stayed the course. When the show finally opened, the crowd's response was electric. They gave him a 10-minute standing ovation. And then came the Tony Award for Best Actor in a Musical. At 40 years old, after 2 decades in the shadows, Hal Linden had finally made it. Standing on that stage, trophy in hand, he joked, "It only took me 20 years to become an overnight sensation." But the most unexpected twist was yet to come. In 1972, television producer Danny Arnold saw The Rothschilds and was blown away by Linden's performance. But Arnold didn't offer congratulations, nor did he even make a note of it. 2 years later, in 1974, when ABC was casting a new sitcom set in a police station, Arnold remembered Linden. He told the network, "I found our Barney Miller." Just like that, Hal Linden got the role. No audition, no clue he was even in the running. As Captain Barney Miller, Hal Linden portrayed a man striving to maintain his sanity in a world that made no sense. The 12th precinct was filled with bizarre characters and even stranger cases, but Barney never lost his cool. He didn't shout or pound his fist on desks. Instead, he wielded dry, understated humor, razor-sharp and steady, to navigate the chaos around him. There was something soothing about him, something wise. Linden once described Barney as a Talmudic figure, a thoughtful judge in the midst of a storm. That quiet strength resonated deeply with audiences, especially with real-life cops. Years after the show ended, police officers would still recognize Linden as Captain. Some even claimed Barney Miller was the most realistic portrayal of their work ever shown on television. Dennis Farina, who had been a cop before transitioning into acting, echoed that sentiment. The characters felt authentic, the problems were relatable, and the writing carried a depth most sitcoms didn't even attempt. But getting that kind of realism on screen wasn't easy. Behind the scenes, Barney Miller was a nightmare. Unlike most sitcoms that filmed in front of a live audience in one evening, Danny Arnold, the show's perfectionist producer, demanded 2 grueling days of filming, with the second often stretching well past midnight. Members would start in the morning and sometimes finish as the sun was rising the next day. New script pages were handed out just moments before shooting. Occasionally, they didn't even have an ending when they began filming. It was exhausting, but it worked. Arnold's one rule was clear: the characters must never break just to serve a joke, to feel like real people. Linden respected that, even if it meant endless rewrites and sleepless nights. The result was a show that didn't just entertain, it made viewers think. It was smart, thoughtful, and brimming with heart. And in the midst of all this chaos, Hal Linden somehow found time to host Animals, a children's educational show that aired on Sunday mornings. Linden delivered engaging monologues about creatures big and small, blending science with stories from art and mythology. This wasn't fluff. He respected kids' intelligence, treating them as capable of understanding complex ideas. Linden would later joke about all the injuries he sustained from working with animals, clawed, bitten, and even peed on. But he stuck with it because he believed children deserved better television. Also hosted another series, FYI, which earned him 2 daytime Emmys. Balanced primetime fame with educational television, all while managing a schedule that would have sent most people into exhaustion. Despite his immense success and the respect of his peers, one elusive prize remained just out of reach: the Emmy. Hal was nominated 7 years in a row for Barney Miller. 7 times, he sat through the ceremony, and 7 times, he walked away empty-handed. It became one of Hollywood's curious little facts. This man, who helped shape one of the most beloved and critically acclaimed sitcoms in television history, never won the award that seemed like a sure thing. Not for lack of talent or recognition, but simply due to fate. When Barney Miller debuted in January 1975, it defied expectations. It didn't start with car chases or end with shootouts. Instead, most of the action unfolded in one room, a rundown squad room inside a New York City precinct. Detectives sat at their desks, filling out reports, debating, joking, and sometimes waiting for something to happen. And that's what made it feel real. Police officers across the country connected with the show because it captured the essence of the job: long hours of paperwork, odd characters coming through the door, and the daily mix of tedium, chaos, and absurdity. It was so accurate that, years after the show ended, real officers would still call Hal Linden Captain. Rather than focusing on action, Barney Miller focused on the people. And that's what made it stand out. But it wasn't just the format that set it apart, it was also the incredible people who filled that squad room. There was Detective Harris, an African-American intellectual who dreamt of becoming a writer. Then there was Wojo, a big-hearted but often clueless Polish-American ex-Marine. Yamana, the Japanese-American officer, had an unshakable love for his terrible coffee and a knack for delivering dry jokes with impeccable timing. And Chano, a fiery Puerto Rican officer, wore his heart on his sleeve, always ready to react with passion. Each of these characters was fully formed, smart, flawed, funny, and real. This kind of diversity was rare on television at the time. Most shows still featured predominantly white casts, and minority characters were often shallow or reduced to stereotype. But Barney Miller was different. It gave each person a voice and personality that felt authentic, resonating with the audience in a way few shows did. This representation wasn't just refreshing, it was necessary. And then something even bolder happened. In the show's first season, Barney Miller aired an episode titled The Courtesans. The plot revolved around prostitution, and it ended with a shocking line that left viewers stunned. After interviewing two high-end sex workers, Wojo turns to the captain and asks, "Can you lend me $50 until payday?" The implication was clear. A cop might be considering paying for sex. That kind of conversation had never been shown on a network sitcom before. The network gave the episode an X rating, a rare move. Rather than hurting the show, the controversy only strengthened it. Viewers tuned in to see what all the fuss was about, and the ratings soared. ABC, which had struggled to fill that time slot, suddenly had a hit on their hands. That single episode secured the show's future and proved audiences were ready for stories that pushed boundaries. But Barney Miller didn't stop there. It kept taking on difficult topics, always with humor and heart. It introduced a recurring gay character, something almost unheard of in the 1970s, and depicted Wojo's discomfort, not with hate, but with confusion. Memorable scene, Wojo asked a gay man why he didn't try harder to be straight. The man's response was calm, honest, and eye-opening. The show just let it land, no judgment, no over-explanation. That's what made it feel real. On the set of Barney Miller, pressure could either crush you or bring you closer. And, for the cast, it did a bit of both. The work was grueling, long days often stretched into longer nights. It wasn't uncommon to start at 8 in the morning and not leave until 6 the next morning. The cast wasn't just filming a sitcom, they were surviving the grind together. Through it all, Hal Linden built deep connections. His bond with Abe Vigoda, for example, was built on respect first and friendship second. Vigoda, known for his stubbornness, had a reputation as being hard to work with, especially when it came to money. At one point, he even walked off the show. But Lyndon never turned his back on him. Even when tensions flared, Lyndon stayed by his side. With Ron Glass, their connection was forged through endurance. Both men felt the weight of those endless workdays, but they leaned on each other for support. Glass would later talk about how brutal it was, but also how it bonded them. Lyndon deeply respected Glass, particularly for his timing and grace under pressure. Then came the hardest chapter. Jack Sue, who portrayed the dry-witted sergeant known for his dreadful coffee, was diagnosed with cancer during the 4th season. Even as his health deteriorated, Sue kept showing up. He missed only a few episodes, still giving his all to bring laughter, even while visibly ill. His final scene came in an episode called The Vandal. Just before a major surgery, Sue cracked a joke about his infamous coffee being the real problem. That moment encapsulated who Jack Sue was, his resilience and his dedication to the show. When he passed away, the loss was felt deeply by the entire cast. They didn't want to just move on, they wanted to honor him. Instead of a scripted tribute, they filmed a raw, heartfelt tribute. No acting, just memories. At the end, they raised their coffee cups in a silent salute. That simple gesture spoke volumes, more than words ever could. But grief wasn't the only challenge they faced. Danny Arnold, the show's creator, was a perfectionist who demanded nothing less than excellence. Didn't care how long it took. While most sitcoms wrapped in a single day, Arnold pushed filming into 2-day marathons, often stretching the second day into 16-hour shifts or more. Scenes were constantly rewritten, and sometimes they began shooting with no clear idea of how an episode would end. On one occasion, they started production with just 6 pages of script. Executives were furious, as the show consistently went over budget, and Arnold refused to let network executives step foot on set. Even when his health took a hit, he suffered a heart attack during the show's run, Arnold pushed forward with his demanding, impossible-to-work-with style. Yet, without him, Barney Miller wouldn't have achieved its unique brilliance. Chaos was part of the process. Through it all, the cast stuck together. Ron Glass once quipped that it took them 3 days to recover from the grueling 4 they worked. To survive the madness, they made up rituals, card games during production delays, shared meals when episodes finally wrapped. Max Gale often brought food from home, keeping spirits up during the late nights. He and Lyndon were the only 2 cast members to get opening credits, and they took the lead in lifting everyone's mood. In 1982, after 7 successful years as Captain Barney Miller, Hal Linden found himself at a crossroads. The creators of a new medical drama called Saint Elsewhere offered him the lead role of Dr. Donald Westfall, a character that seemed like the perfect next step in his career. But Linden didn't even read the script. Without hesitation, he turned it down. He didn't meet the producers or ask any questions, he just walked away. After years of relentless work, he needed a break from the constant pressure of television. That decision changed everything. The role went to Ed Flanders, who earned 3 Emmy nominations and helped make the show a massive hit. Saint Elsewhere became one of the most talked about series of the decade, launching careers for young actors like Denzel Washington and Howie Mandel. Looking back, Linden admitted he might have missed out on something huge, but he stood by his choice. At that moment in his life, rest meant more than fame. After stepping away from television, Linden tried to make a comeback, but it wasn't meant to be. He was eager to find a project that could match the success of Barney Miller, but nothing seemed to stick. In 1986, he starred in Black's Magic, playing a magician who solved crimes with his con artist father, portrayed by Harry Morgan. Had potential, but it didn't catch on. The show was cancelled after just 13 episodes. Next came Jack's Place in 1992, where he played a jazz musician running a cozy restaurant. That too only lasted 18 episodes before disappearing from the airwaves. 2 years later, he tried again with The Boys Are Back, but it was the same story, short-lived, low ratings, and an early cancellation. Almost a decade, Linden kept searching for the right project, but television had changed. Magic that made him a household name seemed to have evaporated. Despite these setbacks, Linden never gave up on performing. The stage was always his true home. In 2002, at the age of 71, he made a triumphant return to Broadway after more than 30 years away. He played Herr Schultz in Cabaret, a role that allowed him to bring warmth and depth to a quiet man searching for love in a world growing darker. Critics were quick to praise his performance, reminding everyone that Linden's talent had not faded with age. And in 2024, at the age of 93, Linden starred in the Journals of Adam and Eve alongside Sally Struthers. The play, which explored love, aging, and human connection, proved that Linden still had the power to captivate an audience. Even in his 10th decade, he remained sharp, funny, and deeply human on stage. Linden's film career may not have been as expansive, but he still managed a few standout roles. In 1997, he joined comedy legends Walter Matthau and Jack Lemmon in Out to Sea, playing a charming dance host on a cruise ship. It was a light-hearted, fun film, and Linden blended in effortlessly with the comedic icons, bringing his trademark wit and warmth. Then, in 2023, he appeared in the Netflix film You People, a modern exploration of family, identity, and culture. Although his role as Mr. Greenwald was small, it demonstrated Linden's willingness to stay involved with bold, contemporary stories. He wasn't just a nostalgic figure. He was still eager to contribute to the evolving world of entertainment. Music had always been close to Linden's heart, and in 2011, at the age of 80, he released his debut album, It's Never Too Late. The album had been in the works since the 1980s, delayed for years, but when it finally came out, it was a mix of jazz standards and big band classics, with Linden's smooth, seasoned voice front and center. He didn't stop there. Linden followed the album with live performances, sometimes doing as many as 28 shows a year, particularly in Florida. Audiences loved him, and the title of his album said it all: Hal Linden wasn't done yet. Through everything, one constant remained: his wife, Frances. They met in 1955 during a summer theater production and married 3 years later. Their 52-year marriage, though Linden called it stormy at times, was a pillar of support. Frances, a dancer, gave up her career to raise their 4 children and support Linden through his years of uncertain work. Before Barney Miller, Hal spent over a decade as an understudy, a frustrating and unstable time. Yet Frances was there through it all. When Frances passed away in 2010 at 82, Linden lost his greatest supporter. Often spoke of her with deep admiration, considering their long marriage one of his proudest achievements. Raising 4 children while filming Barney Miller wasn't easy for Hal Linden. Long workdays often kept him away from family events, but he made sure to stay connected with his kids, joking that their willingness to stay in touch meant he'd done something right. Television over Broadway was a life-changing decision Linden made quickly, not realizing its long-term impact. Born Harold Lipschitz in 1931 in the Bronx, Linden's Jewish immigrant background shaped both his life and his iconic role as Captain Barney Miller. Fair, and calm under pressure, his character reflected Linden's personal values. Off-screen, he was an active supporter of Jewish causes and contributed to Israeli projects through the Jewish National Fund. Barney Miller wasn't just a defining role for Hal Linden. It also left a lasting mark on his co-stars. Ron Glass, who played Detective Harris, became the calm and mysterious Shepherd Book in Firefly and voiced Randy Carmichael in Rugrats, showcasing his versatility across comedy, drama, and animation. Abe Vigoda, famous for his Death Hoax, embraced the joke, continuing to entertain until his death in 2016. Max Gale, who portrayed Wojo, earned a Daytime Emmy for his role as Mike Corbin on General Hospital, showcasing his emotional range. Gale's career spanned diverse roles, earning respect from his Barney Miller co-stars, especially Lyndon, who often referred to him as the heart of the show. Steve Landisberg's Detective Dietrich was memorable for his intellectual humor. Despite Landisberg's modesty off-screen, he passed away in 2010, and Lyndon fondly remembered how Landisberg's first role as a fake priest led to his regular spot on the show. Gregory Sierra, who played Chano, was the biggest name in the cast at the time. Despite tension with Lyndon, his performance left a lasting impact. Sierra, who stumbled into acting by chance, passed away in 2021 after a battle with cancer, but his portrayal of Chano remains unforgettable.